not really a stranger to the show. He was on the anniversary show. Greg Cunningham, head of global diversity and inclusion for U.S. Bank, and his colleague Bill Hoffman, chief analytics officer and customer experience over at U.S. Bank. Hi there, guys.
Good afternoon, Roshini.
You know, what an hour of possibility and money and just life this hour. You know, first we talked to the women in finance and how they're kind of growing and doing a lot of things and balancing. And they made a comment, and I'm guessing I wanted you two to weigh in on this because I'm guessing you have some good comments. They said that you also, when we raise women up, we also have to keep men in that dialogue and keep them raised up and communicating with the women in their lives. Bill, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's really important. And for us at the bank, powering possible is very essential to really, it's our core mission. And as part of that, we have been very focused on obviously understanding our customers, but really moving beyond that as well into our communities. So in the 25-state footprint and actually nationally for the communities we serve, really understanding how Americans broadly are doing and feeling about their workplace, their homes, the places they play in their spare time, and really understanding how they're also talking about those lives on social media.
All right, and we will get into this possibility index shortly. Greg Cunningham, what are your thoughts about the very important role men play in raising women up?
Yeah, I think it's really important, Roshini, and certainly in my role in leading diversity and inclusion for U.S. Bank, we talk a lot about the role that men play in really helping women have access to opportunity. As Bill said, the organization, we talk a lot about possibilities, and that's all about helping everyone reach their full potential. And you can't have a conversation about helping women achieve their possibilities without talking about the role that men play in that.
So true. All right, so let's get to the new 2017 U.S. Bank Possibility Index. What were you trying to measure with this, Bill?
So we wanted to understand, in terms of powering possible, what's really driving possible for the communities we live and work in and play in as well. So we wanted to look at 4 areas. So the index is comprised of 4 components. We look at a variety of work variables, a variety of home variables, a variety of play variables, and then also, very interestingly, how are folks talking about those 3 things on social media?
As a communication coach, I love that you included conversation as one of your areas.
We did, and in fact, the conversation component of this scored the highest, which I think is very interesting. It speaks to the importance of creating that community, whether it's in person or online, and the value that people see from having those conversations and actually feeling that power. So we actually saw the highest score out of the 4 on the conversation component. Overall.
So, Greg, you want to do this every year. Why do you want to do this? I mean, what's kind of the so what about this that the bank will do for itself, its customers, as well as the larger community?
Yeah, it's really important, Roshini, that we understand the world that we're trying to influence. And so as we think about the work that we do and how we spend our resources, whether they be the resources of our employees through volunteerism, where we place our philanthropic investments, it's absolutely critical that we understand in various communities what are the issues that people are struggling with. How are they thinking about their own journey towards possibility and reaching their full potential? We recently, so as Bill indicated, there are 4 pillars as part of the index. And the one where there is the most opportunity, and hopefully your listeners will take the opportunity to go to the website, usbank.com /possibility index. And what you'll find there are the results from the index. And the work pillar was the one where we've seen that Americans see the most opportunity.
When you say opportunity, is there the biggest gap?
The most room for growth,
right?
For sure.
Okay. I know we want to put a positive spin on that, but you're concerned because we spend so much of our lives at work, yet this is where people are not feeling as good.
That's exactly right. And so it's another data point for us. And so it's not the only data point we use to make decisions, but it helps us ask better questions. And so when you talk about why we're doing this every year, because it helps us keep our finger on the pulse of how Americans are feeling.
Which is really important. All right. So I found interesting, Bill, that home for the country, so overall as a nation, and then we'll get into the regions, the 2017 U.S. Possibility Index shows that the nation is doing and feeling the best at home as opposed to work and play. I guess that is a good thing, right? You're feeling good about your home, maybe your family life.
Yeah, I think that it speaks to the foundation that folks are feeling and really the power for potential growth in the other areas. So when you think about the components that make up the home variable. And we did see the overall score for the average was 49. Home was a 51. And Greg mentioned earlier, work at 38 is a clear area of opportunity. But we did well around home. And these are things like insurance coverage, commute times, crime rate, diversity, community engagement. So if we have that strong foundation to build upon, which we think we do, that's a very important piece. And then we can really focus on the investments in the work and play variables for some communities. But we did see some interesting regional differences, as you mentioned.
Yeah, let's get into that. So for our region, West Central, which is Minnesota, Missouri, Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, home ranked number 1, and we were number 2 in conversation.
Yeah, we actually did. We outscored the national average on all pillars, which is quite interesting, right? So for work, we were 44 versus 38, home 56 versus 51, play 45 versus 40, and on conversation is 78 versus the 67. So we're feeling good as a region. I was born in this area, lived here a good chunk of my life, and that's really important. And one of the biggest drivers we saw that was powering our our region was around household income growth. So on the work part, when you think about the work variables, that includes household income. It includes retirement security in terms of 401ks, labor force, and education. So we have a real opportunity in terms of labor force and household income to be really a source of strength for the rest of the nation.
I'm talking with Greg Cunningham and Bill Hoffman from U.S. Bank. We're talking about their new Possibility Index. If you have questions or comments for them, give us a call. Phone and text lines are open. Text is 81807. Our phone line's 866 or 651-989-9226. Greg, I know you have been quoted as saying, you want to end poverty or reduce it, give someone a job. Mm-hmm. So that very issue of employment is big. How does that play into this Possibility Index?
It's what's ironic about it in some respects, and my exact quote was, you can't build vibrant communities if people aren't working. And I fundamentally believe that to be true. And we recently just announced over $11.2 million in grants aimed at nonprofits who are specifically focused on that work pillar. And these are things, Roshini, like workforce readiness programs, it's job training programs, it's higher education, and it's financial education in support of small businesses. And so the index really, as I said, allows us to ask those really different questions, and so that we can make our investments in those places that will make the most difference.
Yeah, big. All right, we're going to take a break, and then you can join the conversation. 81807 is our text line, or call us 651-989-9226.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
Roshini Rajkumar back with you. We are talking about the Possibility Index and the power of possibility when it comes to these 4 categories: work, home, play, and conversation. And the gentlemen who have all the answers here are 2 men from U.S. Bank. Bill Hoffman is Chief Analytics Officer, and Greg Cunningham is Head of Global Inclusion and Diversity for the bank. All right, Bill, tell us about this area called conversation, one of the 4 categories your Possibility Index measured.
Yeah, so as an analytics professional, really we wake up every day trying to find answers, right? That's really, we get questions, we find answers. But really, even more important than finding the right answer is understanding what are the right questions. And the conversation index is really sparking some interesting questions for us. So we did see on the conversation side, so social media, that it was the highest scoring of the 4 areas. It really, I think, speaks to 2 things. One is the optimistic spirit of Americans. The folks that we talk to are portraying their lives more positively on social media than perhaps some of the hardcore quantitative data would indicate. So part of it is that optimistic spirit, which is something we want to explore more and understand and tap into, right? That's a very important part of our economy and how we live, work, and play together. The second is just speaking to the importance of conversation, the power of sharing your experiences with others, and doing so in social media is very important. There have been health benefits that have been demonstrated from, folks online tend to have lower cardiovascular disease, as an example. So knowing that there is power not only for well-being, for health, but we think as well in helping folks understand how to optimize their finances, how to spend their money well, how to learn from each other. And it's a very important area for us that we're going to dig into over the coming months.
Greg, I know conversation is so important to you. And when you are talking about that inclusion and diversity space, we need to keep talking.
Yeah, now more than ever, right? I think that's one of the things at the bank that we absolutely encourage, and we do everything from hosting and encouraging leaders to host courageous conversations. And courageous conversations don't mean that we always agree. I think there are often times where disagreement is a very healthy thing. It allows us to grow, to see different perspectives, and to actually share in other people's life stories and the humanity of it all. So Bill's right. I think the optimism that we're seeing in social media is really encouraging. I think despite the scores that we see in the work and play pillars, that Americans are genuinely optimistic, and they want to share that, and they want to benefit from that from their networks as well.
Well, and this is really great to hear, because social media can also get such a bad rap with people, spewing complaints or whatever it is. And now on Twitter, when we've jumped from 140 characters to 280, which I don't know that was needed, but we have more characters, Bill, with which to say whatever we are going to say.
Yeah, I think the trend will definitely be going up in terms of Americans sharing, conversing, building communities online. Not that offline communities aren't incredibly important too, and I know that's very important to Greg and myself and the bank broadly. But as we think about what we're talking about online, what we saw in the work with the Possibility Index is a lot of folks talking about friends and family, about their financial goals, about financial acumen, about building that. And those are all very important things to U.S. Bank. We want to be a pillar of support and encouragement and help convene those conversations for the communities we serve. And we're looking forward to leveraging some of the insights from the Possibility Index to further those goals.
Well, you read my mind, Bill. If both of you can kind of address now, how do you want this Possibility Index to be used, beyond the bank? And you've measured it across the country, these different areas. But what can the rest of, companies, communities, nonprofits learn from this?
It truthfully is just check it out, right? Again, visit usbank.com/possibility index, and you can play around with the index, and you can actually go in and play around with many of the variables and determine where your own possibilities lie.
So you can take a quiz.
You can take a quiz. You can input your own interests, your own lifestyle preferences, and it'll show you where your score is across each of the 4 pillars. And what's so interesting about that is because it helps you understand your possibilities. And then come talk to a banker. Come talk to us. Come talk to us about how we can actually help you meet your possibilities. But then you can also compare regions. So you can look at how our region, the West North Central region, compares to other regions. So it's a really interesting tool to help you personally understand where you are on that journey.
All right. So as you both know, you couldn't hide from it. We just had an election. Lots of different offices, some major, many minor, as far as the headlines go. But both Minneapolis and St. Paul have new mayors. Okay. What are your thoughts of how maybe this Possibility Index could be used, could be leveraged as you're having conversations moving forward with some of these office holders?
So we built this to be helpful to U.S. Bank and decision makers within the bank, but really more importantly for the broad communities of decision makers we're serving down to an individual customer. So as an individual customer, you can go check out the index and see how your area relates to the broader U.S., areas to focus on to share your story. So we wanted to convene the conversation within the tool as well and the communities built around the tool. But whether it's a political decision maker, an economic decision maker, a business decision maker, this fact base can be helpful. So for us, as an example, thinking about, we're going to focus potentially investments in work or home or play by region. So getting smarter about, as Greg mentioned earlier, how we're leveraging the tens of millions of dollars that we're putting back in the communities in the way that's going to create the most impact. And that's really important for us. But it's not just for us. Anyone can use it, and we built it as such.
All right, we've got about 60 seconds left with you. How do you, I think play is such a great area to measure. I'm having fun this month. It's my birth month, and I have a tradition I started a few years ago where I try to see as many of my favorite people as possible for tea or happy hour or lunch or whatever. So I've had a lot of fun with birth month. What do you each do in 10 seconds or less for fun and play?
I've got my my boys are with me, and we've got 3 kids at home, and just really spending a lot of time with them, sports activities, school activities, just around town and in the communities that we live.
That's great.
I like to work out. I'm actually going to leave here. I'm going to go do a couple laps in the pool, and that's my way to unwind and just sort of have some fun. So
Excellent. Well, you can hear more from Greg Cunningham tomorrow on our sister station, WCCO TV, on the morning show. We're happy that we had him and Bill here first, but you can hear him with the morning show team in the 6 a.m. hour around 6:20. But be sure to tune into them all morning to hear what they have for you. Well, Greg Cunningham, Bill Hoffman, thanks so much for coming over from U.S. Bank and spending some time with us in studio today. Congrats on the Possibility Index.
Thank you very much for having us.
And you're going to make this a yearly thing.
Yes,
Annually.
Just the beginning.
Keep on measuring. All right. We are going to take a break for national and local.